right, case 55 from the Blue Cliff record. Monk Zengen once accompanied his teacher Dogo on a condolence call to a family funeral. When they arrived, he wrapped the coffin and said, "Alive or dead?" Master Dogo said, "I won't say alive, I won't say dead." Master Dogo repeated, Zengen demanded, "Why won't you say?" Master Dogo repeated, "I won't say, I won't say." On their way back home to the temple, Zengen cried, "Tell me right now, teacher, alive or dead? If you don't, I will hit you." Master Dogo said, "You may hit me, but I won't say." Zengen hit him. After Master Dogo passed away, Zengen went to see Dogo's successor, Sekiso, told him the story and asked for guidance. Sekiso said, "I won't say alive, I won't say dead." Zengen said, "Why won't you say it?" Sekiso repeated, "I won't say, I won't say." Zengen immediately realized it. So as many of you know, koans are Zen stories that points us towards a perspective we can have. In many ways, it's a perspective that's outside our usual habitual way of processing information, experience, thinking through things, or experience things. How we meet the koan is the main way that in the Soto Zen tradition, there isn't really a method, whereas in the Rinzai Zen way, there is a whole different groupings of koans that people work through. There are correct answers and incorrect answers, and you graduate through different series. And in the Soto Zen way, we don't do that. Usually it's used as a Dharma talk story, or sometimes between student and teacher. In some ways, in the Soto Zen tradition, the relationship of a student and teacher is the koan. And many of koans are stories about student and teacher, just as this one. So of course we can read this koan, and part of my talk today is about how I've had a new thought on this koan. So as some of you have heard this talk and this koan before, in which essentially, right, and I don't think this part makes any, has changed for me, is that this is a story about alive or dead, about a big question in life, and many of you are experienced just that, right? And in our tradition, we carry it around and see what happens. So a little bit, there isn't really a structure in Soto Zen for how to meditate with a koan. In general, there is a sense of you take a phrase or you take a word, which is called mondo, and you keep on dropping it into your meditation and see what arises. So I kind of verbalize my koan practice for you all tonight, which may have brought up some feelings, right? Which may be also in the sense then that this story is about how do we hold such big questions about living and dying. So one way is to hold it as, what makes me alive? And what makes me dead? What is this enlivening in this moment? And what is deadening? Right? Oh, is the inhale the aliveness? Or the exhale the deadness? Or is it the end of the inhale when there's no more breath that's deadness? Or a sense of, is fear death, or is fear or excitement? What's the difference between those? When does excitement go into fear? for many of us, excitement's probably an enlivening thing. And then the, anxiety, or for most of us, is probably the deadening part. Like that's the part we want or we don't want. And many of us think alive is something I want and deadness is something I want. Wouldn't you say? Or is that just me? Yeah. So it's also a koan about how we tend to frame reality as duality. I'm either alive or I'm dead. This is an enlivening situation or a deadening situation. And I think if we carry it as that, I think it's useful. Especially as, you've heard me before, and I just said it, that I've carried as, oh, is this moment an enlivening moment or deadening? And that is not just whether it's pulling that out of me, but am I engaging with it in a livening way, or am I engaging with my life in a deadening way? Does that make sense? Right? So you hold it as both. Like for me, it's been something that I've been carried it like every day of my life since I've heard it. And it does come up periodically, especially at times in which there is difficulties, such as actual, death. Mostly around death, it comes up pretty kind of obvious, right? Now, so that's one way. And we could say the practicing with that is what would be termed as it, where we hear in Zen about duality a lot, or one framing of duality is certainly when form is emptiness and emptiness is form. When does form become empty? Is it at the moment of death? Right? When does Lien finish? Where is that moment in which I am gone? I mean, scientifically, you could say when you don't have a brain wave or something, right? That's how or a pulse, on TV or whatever, we'd see, oh, I can't hear them breathing, or there's no more pulse. So scientifically, there are certain ways, certainly, but in general, how do we think of that? And especially at that moment when someone has died for us, are they alive or are they dead? And in fact, that's the moment in which we struggle with, I mean, I know, having been around death, is that you're like, wow, I just talked to them yesterday or 2 days ago or a week ago or a month ago or whatever, a minute ago. And now they're gone. And that's a moment where we go alive or dead. So practicing with it in that way is a way of trying to understand, where is it that we meet moments in which the framing of duality isn't useful, or it's very confusing because it feels like we have to choose. And I was thinking about the word duality. There's a dual in there. There's a dual between, right? It gives this sense that we have to choose. And probably most of you, when I said it, especially in the meditation, is this enlivening or is this deadening? You're like, oh, enlivening. I want it to be enlivened. In fact, we're supposed to be awake, which comes with this sense of being awakened, alive. And is that the only time in which we are alive? Sometimes I feel most alive in the moment in which it's difficult. I'll tell you, it's true. Perhaps physically, it's a little slow because when I fell over backwards, I did hit the big pot first. That probably slowed down my fall, but it was like one of the slowest moments in my life. And I was going, Deb. I didn't yell it. I just called out her name, right? And it was just going down, and I can still see, I was at the passenger side, of course. And then I could just see the window going up and then the sky. And I felt the impact of so it was kind of like a dip, where there should have been land that was even with the sidewalk and the curb, but it was dipped. So the sidewalk really had a gap, and I hit the side of that, right? And I felt the pain, and I was just like, ugh, pain. And then Deb jumped out of the car. Oh, so she was pulling up because she was parked at where the sticky bush with sticky, pointy leaves that seemed like they would hurt. And I was like, pull forward before I get in. And I kept going, pull forward, right? And I wanted to put something in the back seat, but she was kind of confused, I think. Anyway, so then I was doing the door, and then just got discombobulated, trying not to get poked by the thing. And then some footing thing happened, and I just started to fall. And Deb jumped out of the car on the driver's side, and then she was coming out of the back, right? And as I'm laying there, the car started to roll backwards because she was, pulling forward, right? And she just was so concerned about me. She just jumped out of the car to come take care of me. And I'm like, car is sliding backward, or car's moving. That's what I said. So she's like at the back. Then I was, then she's like, okay, I got to run in and turn, put the car in park, right? And then for a moment, I was like, she might roll over my legs, right? And it wasn't that close or anything, but there was a moment in which, and I didn't feel fear. It was just clearly like, oh, car is rolling. My legs are there, or close, right? I didn't actually have any fear, to be honest. And my point is, in that moment in which something intense happens, is a moment in which I was very alive. I noticed so many things. So ironically, and I was saying to people at the beginning, when you have pain, you're very clear about how your life, how your body, which is very alive, remember the body is always present. My body, until whenever I'm dead, is alive as I will ever be, is this body. Right now, I'm as alive as I'll ever be. Right? And the moment pain, in some ways, really makes us aware of our condition of aliveness. However, most of us want to deaden ourselves to that. We don't want that kind of aliveness. So it, in a way, is this koan about what are you choosing as your moment of aliveness and your moment of deadness? And perhaps the question is also, do you really have a choice? I'll tell you, as I'm preparing this, I thought, oh, here's my new thought about this, right? My new thought about this, and some of you remember, is I've said, one, there's not this duality, right? This, which is what, in some sense, what I've been talking about. Then there's the sense of maybe the master won't say because he can't say. He can't say. How can anyone, you come to me, especially in your practice discussion, tell me what to do about this. Maybe you don't say those words. Sometimes you do, but sometimes you're like, and I'm not saying you shouldn't, right? Because that's part of why we come to people, be it me or your friend or whoever, right? Or a book or the I Ching or whatever. You're looking for some kind of answer, right, to your question. Tell me what to do. How should I meet this? And I'm not saying that's a bad thing to do. And the won't say is, in this story, is the master saying, I won't say, because you can't really say for anyone else what's going to enliven you and what's going to deaden you. So I could tell a story about how I feel enlivened or dead. And we can relate or we can discuss. And I think there's still some truth in there that I can't say for you. And no one can say for you what is alive and what is dead. Ultimately, you have to decide for yourself. And not only decide, but act on that. I want to be really clear. I almost said, what's the difference between saying you won't and not doing it? Is there a difference? I meant in the meditation, but I didn't want to yell. I thought about it a few times. I would be very Zen master story, but I didn't want to hurt your ears, right? Or bring up some other emotions, right? So is it that you can't say? And that's pretty much where I left it in the past. Because in each moment, we kind of have to meet it for ourselves and meet it in a way that is enlivening or dead or whatever it is, and that life is complex and you don't know until that moment happens. And I think there's still a lot of truth in that. And then earlier today, I will say that I was thinking maybe can't say is really won't say. In fact, as I was really reading this during the meditation and then saying it, because other times I've given the talk, I've just given the talk, right? I read you the case and then I give a talk. I don't think I've ever done this one as a meditation. Oh, I think a long, long time ago I might have done it. And not in the same way, certainly, because it's a different moment. And so, is this story really a teacher and student story? Is this story a teacher and student story? I won't say. What if you came to every PD and I just say, I won't say? You probably wouldn't have too many PDs after a while, right? But in a way, that is my role, as a teacher. In a way, a lot of these stories of koans of teachers, they say very apocryphal kind of things, right? Like, really, they won't say. They just fucking won't say. And those are the teachers that drive you nuts and you learn a lot from. Or I have. And where is it then? Is that I won't say. Right? In some ways, what is it? And sometimes, we come to meetings, be it again with your teacher, me, or some situation. And when someone won't say something, how does that enliven your life or not? What is your response? So that's the other thing about koans, right? Is it's about what does it bring up as a response in us? And the response would change according to conditions. This is why a koan, you meet it differently every time, every moment, hopefully, and certainly in periodic times of your life, you're going to hear something else. And tonight I really hear it as my job is that I won't say. And in fact, I've said this to you guys. I'm not here to give you fucking information, right? I won't just give you information. I won't say what you need to know here. I do give you information, but ultimately my job is not to tell you what to do, how to live your life, who you should be. And in fact, that is the teacher role. And certainly as a Mahayanist teacher and a Zen teacher, it's not my job to say. Because fundamentally, you are already everything you need. And if you're open, when you're willing to meet whoever you are, however you are, whatever's going on, then a moment will arise in which you will be you. In fact, you're already doing it, to be perfectly honest, right? And in some ways, are we not practicing to just be, and we don't need to say anything about it? When you accept yourself fully or the situation fully, you're just in it. There's no story about it. There's no need to tell your story to someone else. There's no need to ask advice. Some of us call that insight. And we're like, now I know. Now, of course, don't go going, oh, well, every time I know, I'm right. And I don't need anyone else's input. That's not really what I'm saying. I hope you know that, right? And could we say that our practice is to become more and more confident in ourselves? and what you could say, or what could you be? How are you? That is settling that you don't need to say, or that you won't say even. When is it that you won't say? Now, of course, that could be a won't say as in, I got a secret, or I'm really ashamed, or whatever, right? So what's the difference then between the won't say of shame or embarrassment or whatever versus a won't say as in there's nothing to say? There's only this. So is that non-duality? When we don't see our life as having to choose from this and that, right or wrong, good or bad, you or me? I don't think necessarily, because sometimes you have to choose. When you get married, I hope you say I do, meaning I want you, right? Or if you come into a room and have PD with me and that bow, right? You're meeting me as Buddha to Buddha, you better be here. And there's a you and there's a me. So it's not that, oh yeah, I'm awakened when it's just like, oh, no you, no me. We are one. Perfect. I'm being a little bit cheeky right now. Maybe your practice or our practice or yours, if I'm back to a practice discussion, is that you come into the room, and before you come into the room with me, you say, what is it that I won't say? What is it I won't? You know, this is why some of you have heard, practice discussion used to be half an hour. And then everyone waits till the last 10 minutes. Then they say the thing they won't say for 20 minutes. And then they say it, and then time goes over. So when I've made it 20 minutes, the won't say comes sooner. It works, actually, for the most part. People start to, get used. 20 minutes starts to feel like, oh, when can I take it to the edge where I have to say? Maybe the won't say is, when do you get to that point where you have to say? Or maybe it's meeting that moment where you're resistant and you won't say, that one where it's too shameful, too full of whatever that you're not willing to accept about yourself or me or the situation. Next month, I hope all of you, before you come into a PD, just think about all the things you won't say and then see if you can just say it when you come in. It'll be a very interesting month, I think. Or not. Maybe you're already doing it. Maybe I'm making assumptions about you. I don't know. And I'll put it out there. I'll put it out there. And I'll ponder about what is it that I won't say. Sometimes, I give talk. In fact, I was just talking to my brother who's visiting because of the holiday, who's a Zen teacher too. And I'd made some notes for the talk, and I said, there's a part where I was like, am I really going to say that? By the way, I haven't used those notes because when I was reading this koan, I was like, oh, it's about student and teacher relationship. And then I was like, oh, am I going to say that? Am I going to say that tonight? Because I got no notes about it. I got no notes about it right now. Of course, every story that's about student and teacher is about me and whatever, on one level, whatever authority I give to my life. The teacher, God, Buddha, the system, my partner, not my partner, like who is it that this authority that you keep on, having, it's the relationship that you see your resistance or you see where you're not willing to be completely open and honest. And then, of course, it's where is it that you are not open and honest to the greatest authority of all, yourself? And mostly it's just like, what self won't I be that I'm too ashamed or whatever, embarrassed, shy, whatever the word you want to use, sometimes even too joyful to share. What is that you won't allow yourself? And probably some of it is because there's this setup of duality. I mean, I've heard some of you, I started to make notes. I'm excited, I'm here by myself, my son just left, I'm excited, and I'm a little bit, couldn't even say the word, right? Well, what? You're what? Say it. You know who you are, say it.
Alone.
Thank you for sharing. Who else didn't say what they wanted to say? I also had a, oh, well, but to me is the, I won't say, right? I'm happy, but what? Who else wanted to say what they didn't want to say? Go ahead. What one thing you won't say, you're willing to say?
I'm embarrassed I didn't prepare better.
Okay, thank you. I'm not saying any names, so just say it. And it doesn't matter if other people are saying something else at the same time. Zen students, what won't you say? And I'm looking at some of you in particular.
I'm lowering my expectations for my marriage.
All right, thank you.
I'm ashamed of my my pessimism.
Thank you. What won't you say?
I'm sad a lot of the time.
Thank you. Yeah, let's do a bow after. That's a great. I'm not bowing too much right now, but I'm taking little bows. You're muted.
Unidentified longings.
Oh. I'm having a hard time letting myself be at peace with what I want, but I think I muted.
What we won't say is often the resistance. So the irony is what we won't say is often the resistance to what we want. What do you want?
I'm having a hard time learning to trust.
I was going to say, often we won't say because it's something we really want. But it's also the won't say then becomes a resistance. Or won't feel. It's not just say, I won't feel, won't think, won't let myself. You know, if anyone noticed, I left at the end of the meditation. Why? Because I was sitting here going, I have to pee, but I won't go pee. I don't have enough time, I blah, 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 blah. Then I'm like, hey, go and pee, you know? How much of our life is like, I won't. And it's like, what happens if you do? You attend to yourself, or nothing happens really. Many of you didn't even notice, right? and didn't care the other thing. What does it matter? I'm the one with the clock, right? So it's a letting go of some responsibility. Oh, I have to be here and make sure. I don't know if I have enough time, blah, blah, blah. Which, doesn't make it bad, mind you. It just a moment in which we see, why won't we? Why won't I? What is the won't about? Is it a self-imposed won't? Is it a necessary won't? Now is the key. Is it a useful won't? Is it a harming won't? Is it a loving won't? It can be a loving won't. There's certainly lots of won't in PDs that comes from love from me. And sometimes it's the things I won't say or I don't want to say, I will have to say. Certainly, we all know that. So what is the difference then between the won't that's enlivening or the won't that's deadening, or the won't that's needed, we don't know, actually we don't know. And this is the hard part. Because we don't, there's no, I won't say mostly because it's not that you're perfect already, though it is true. It really, on a lot of level, is the commitment has to be yours. Because when you think about it, probably a lot of time, many of you, and it's not just about when you're me, your teacher, but other times, in which the aha is really that I've said nothing new to you, but this time you won't resist it. So maybe the won't is, I won't resist. Which could be, and I will allow. Of course, the people of your life, also sometimes interact with me so that I won't say things to you. They hope I will say things to you that they won't say. I'm not going to do that either. So when is the won't say in service of connection, in service of non-harming? Or better yet, when is the won't say appropriate? I think that's the question I'll end with. When is the won't say appropriate?
When I'm with someone who is hostile.
Yes. Then that's not resistance, that's safety. You know that. So that's a won't say from awareness of what's appropriate here. Certainly. So the won't isn't, so that's why I can't say what is enlivening and what's deadening. Because we don't know, it's always in context. So the won't say isn't necessarily, no, I won't interact with you, I won't say. Sometimes it's a won't say of, I don't need to tell you. Sometimes the won't say is, you're not ready. Sometimes the won't say is, I'm resistant. Or the won't say is, you're too resisted. Why should I? And the won't say is, I didn't think of it. again, I think it's a useful question. Why won't you say? What if you were the student and the master, the monk and the master? When do you say to yourself, I won't say? Or when do you need to ask yourself, why won't you say? There's a way of perhaps asking yourself, where is the resistance? Or perhaps it's you're asking yourself, what's appropriate? Is it appropriate here not to? Question, yes. Or a statement.
Just
Why won't you say? No, I'm kidding. Teasing you. Okay.
because I doubt myself. I often won't say because I doubt my own feelings, intentions.
Mhm.
Don't trust them, maybe.
Yeah. So then if this was the koan for you, then yeah, take it on as when you have doubt. You say, why won't I say? Why won't I say? Now, the thing about koan is you receive the answer, but you don't have to accept the answer. There's a big difference, folks. We practice to receive answers, certainly, or allow for answers to arise. The harder part is deciding which answer we're going to commit to. And sometimes then, it's useful then to say, what is alive here? If I doubt myself, or for instance, what is enlivening here? Is it enlivening to keep on doubting? Or is it deadening to have doubt in this moment? This is the thing about koan. It's not like it's a one-way koan. It just keeps on working with you. It can be a gift, or it can be a resistant, or it can be a sharp, pokey thing that you're trying to avoid and fall over onto. Okay? This is part of it's not going to always be like, oh, koan, beautiful. When I solve it, I would just advance, and life will be peachy keen. This is why it's hard, actually. Remember, I've said this before. You hold the koan not necessarily because it will give you an answer, though you're going to open and receive answers. You hold the koan because it's a question. A koan is a question. And it's not a dualistic thing about question and answer. It's a meeting. When is it useful to hold it as a question? When is it useful to use it as an answer? And when is it that it's neither and it's just what is? And on a certain level, we could say it's when you make a choice and you're committed. And then when you get to committed, then there's no more choice, is there? Committed is done. This is what I'll do. This is what and I'm responsible for it from here on out. Which doesn't mean another question isn't going to arise. What does the rest of my life mean with this commitment, right? But you don't know that till you live every moment of your life with it. So it's not, this is why on a certain level, I mean, we have the sense that koan practices, should be fun. But like any part of our practice, there's going to be, if you're authentically engaging with it, then you have to, then it's necessary that's also being held and practiced with all the time or at any point, not just when it's convenient. Otherwise, it's just entertainment. Or a game, which is a kind of entertainment. Or a story, which is kind of entertainment. Which doesn't mean it can't be an entertainment. And hopefully that's not all it is. Hopefully you don't come here to be entertained and that's all. And here, by here, I mean A to Z, I mean practice, I mean these weekly engagements. All right. I won't say anything else because that's all I have. Thank you very much. Anything you won't say before we go? You want to say that you won't say before we go? Martin likes that one.
I won't say because I'm waiting for the right time.
Now's the right time. Say something.
Thank you for allowing me to grieve and celebrate with you all. Thank you.
Lovely. Everything is lovely right now, so do it. Okay, how about you all unmute and just say or make a sound? I'll try it on. It's a lot of them. It's just about doing it, folks. It's not the content. Ready? 1, 2, 3, go.
As it is.
Okay, there. We've just said what we won't say. All right, here we go. And now we'll just give it all away. All right. For any merit we accrue tonight.
Any merit we accrue tonight.
We won't say.
We won't say.
We won't say.
This we dedicate to all beings in the 10 directions and the 3 times.
This we dedicate to all beings in the 10 directions and the 3 times.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Peace, Sangha. I love
Night,
you.
everyone.
Bye.